Hello everyone and welcome back to another Batman Miniature Game 3rd edition battle report, and today for you in this 350 rep game we have the entirety of the new The Batman themed starter set. So it's a Batman crew going up against organised crime, but it's using just the miniatures provided in that box, which are enough for two 350 rep crews, with objective decks, mixing in generic ones of course as well, but mostly just using the stuff that comes in that box. So if you're curious how both sides perform, we're hopefully going to see that today. So let's go look at the specifics. So here is the Batman crew, and I will just say also both crews that come in that new starter set leave a lot of room for funding. Try and remember everything that's been purchased with funding, but no guarantees. But if it comes up in gameplay, it will obviously be mentioned. So the Batman crew is being led by the pre-order bonus, which was the Drifter, which is Bruce Wayne when he's not Batman. He's the same rep cost as the Batman that comes in the box, and he can swap out into him if he reveals an enemy suspect marker in the game and then uses a special action. When you select him though, him or Batman, you have to select another person to be your leader, and that's going to be the sidekick, which is Chief Mackenzie. The names are very similar. Chief Mackenzie there, who's in the slightly different coloured uniform, joined by GCPD officers 1 and 2 who both have radios. Oh, the Drifter has the upgraded bat suit and the hidden magazine, to give him some more batarangs. Officer Martinez on the end here has undercover from patrol training, I think the upgrade's called. Gordon's got riot gear and a helmet. The mounted cop is just as he is. And then free agent, who isn't actually Batman affiliated, but she can be with anyone except organised crime. It is the Batman themed Catwoman, and she isn't really meant for attacking. She gets full free efforts if she hasn't attacked. If she is attacked by someone and hasn't attacked. And she has a special action she can use to kind of get that effect back even if she has attacked, called Disguise. And she has a method by which to look at the opponent's objective hand. So both the generic GCPD officers have radios. I think that's about it. One of them has patrol training for Street Guy. That's about it. Again, if anything has been forgotten, we'll mention it going forward. And they are Team Yellow Markers this time. And here is the organised crime crew, I guess, taking up residence in this weird looking quarry area on the outskirts of Gotham. They're also going to be the Team Red this time. Being led by Carmine Falcone, he's an intel support character, so he's not really on the table, but he'll be providing his influence and whatnot. He can actually do a hypnotise effect on people to get control of them via corruption. And the sidekick is the Penguin. We call him Feral Penguin. He creates a Inspire bubble similar to Falcone, because he's his lieutenant, so you can actually spread out your Inspire bubble. Forgot to mention, but I believe Gordon has that for... someone has it for the Batman crew. Oh, the Batman can get it after a certain number of objective cards is scored, but we'll have to cover that when it happens, because his rule changes from vengeance to hope. But either way, we're talking about organised crime. We have Twin 1 and Twin 2. Twin 2 is the one with his arms folded, as far as I'm aware. Then at the back there we have, from left to right, Bouncers 1, 2, 3. The one who's aggressively looking for his keys on the end there has a gun with extra ammo and a silencer. The Mafia Thug, which is the guy in the black suit and the blue bag there, kind of over his shoulder. He's been pimped out with a bulletproof vest, grapple gun, backpack. I think that's about it. And then the Detective Kenzie, not to be confused with Chief Mackenzie. Detective Kenzie, the crooked cop that moonlights as a cop. He's just there for some extra muscle. I think he has an extra magazine upgrade as well. Again, if any purchased funding upgrades matter in the gameplay, we'll mention it then, if it's been forgotten to be mentioned here. This crew has like $2,300 funding, thanks to just the extras from Falcone and the Penguin. So it's a little rough to cover it all, and the Batman crew has extra from the Chief of Police, public spending. So there's a lot to cover, and that is a lot to keep track of if you are buying into the starter edition and getting these two crews. But beyond that, organised crime is probably the more complicated of the two. The new units they have here, the Bouncers and the Mafia Thug, they have, and actually one of the twins, they have traits that help their objective cards score easier, which is much needed, but we'll see how much that matters once we get started. So we'll get both crews deployed and be back. So here we are at deployment, all set up and good to go, with some out of deployment placements due to undercovers on both sides. Let's cover the objective cards first. There's two Phase 2s being played by the Batman crew. 2 Unveiling the Truths are being put into play. Presumably that's okay because it's only during Phase 3. You can't play a card with the same name in the same phase twice. So Unveiling the Truth, 1 is being played on the Drifter, who has a new role called Investigator, where if he progresses this card, he actually puts an additional marker on instead of the usual amount, making it easier to score. The other one is being placed on Gordon, it was? Yeah, Gordon. I think the Drifter, Gordon, and the Chief are the only detectives in the box. So, being played on them, so they'll be working towards that as they reveal suspect markers, friendly or otherwise. And then for the Organised Crime, there's a Phase 1 and a Phase 2. Their Die Hard card came out instantly, which is always fun. It's being played on the Penguin, and we'll show where he is in a second because he's actually hiding currently. And Recovering the Juice. Target friendly model, may not be the boss. That model reveals an enemy suspect marker and is still alive by the end of a turn. That is being played on the out of placement Mafia Thug, who's been put here with Undercover. He came forwards a little bit. He's got a bulletproof vest bought for him. He's pretty safe even from a little bit of gunfire. So he's there with Audacity as well. Got two of the bouncers down here with Detective Kenzie. The one with the gun has Audacity there. Falcone's here with Audacity. He's got the twins flanking him right there. And Penguin is hiding up here with Audacity. And he has a bouncer next to him. That Penguin has Protect Me as well. So having someone nearby him to keep him alive is a good idea. We come over here then for the Batman crew. The mounted GCPD cop is here with Audacity. Chief Mackenzie, that's going to keep on happening, is right here against that sewer marker there, creating that bubble of Inspire. The two GCPD officers, Gordon, Catwoman is over here with Audacity, and then two undercover placements. Martinez is up there with Audacity, and the Drifter is touching that sewer grating right there with Audacity. So, with all that said and done, the waffling is over with. Let's start the match. Round 1. The Batman crew has priority, although they also have one pass, as it's 8 miniatures to 9. Let's see what happens. So the Batman crew got the game started by passing, so Organised Crew had to activate and did so with Bouncer 1, that's the one in the brown suit. No Audacity but next to Falcone, so he moved up his 8 inches and put down a suspect marker using that Inspired Manipulate. This Bouncer is one who also makes the Recovering the Juice card better, I think. No wait, not that one, the Pinched Mobster one, sorry, where instead of placing it on the person who has received damage, you can just make it activate, but you place it in contact with an enemy. Not a good card on turn 1 when all the enemy are in the deployment zone, very far away, but if he lives, then in the future he can make good use of that card. For the Batman crew, it was the GCPD Officer 1 who activated without Audacity, but right next to Chief Mackenzie. Moved up, not even his full 8 inches, enough that he had come forward more than enough to put down a suspect marker, which is what he did using that free Inspire, but still having a lot of cover from the Batmobile just to stop himself getting randomly shot. Twin 1 activated and he was to Falcone's right but your left. He didn't have Audacity, he moved up his 8 inches and did nothing else with it this turn. He does have a special action he could have used if he had Audacity called Widespread Corruption, where he can target an enemy suspect marker within 8, replace it with a friendly one and then remove the enemy one, which is pretty powerful. He also has the really good passive It's Mine, so suspect markers within 2 of him can't be revealed. Friendly ones, that is. Now that one is slightly too far away, so it's not going to count for that this turn, but he's just moving up to try and protect their assets. The other JCPD officer activated, and it was basically the same activation for her as it was the first officer. Just moved up and then used that Inspire to put down a suspect marker, trying to use the Batmobile there for a little bit of cover as well. And next up for Organised Crime was Detective Kenzie, the crooked cop. He wanted to go through the sewer grating, but there isn't really any safe place he could pop up, he would just get ganked. So instead he moved 8 inches over here, and using the Inspired Manipulate from Falcone because he has a henchman, he put down a suspect marker instead. So Bruce Wayne, aka the Drifter, activated, and he had an interesting turn, so we've got to cover a lot of new rules that are specific to him. He started against the sewer grating there closest to the site closest to us. He moves 10 inches, which is pretty decent for Bruce Wayne, which took him there, where you can see him on the bottom of the screen. But he is also a detective, so he can interact with suspect markers up to 3 inches away, and he made use of that to remove the suspect marker that the twin fell just short of being able to protect. So that was a little bit of misplacement there, because in him revealing that, he would put 2 markers on the unveiling the truth that was played on him. His investigator rule though means he puts 3 markers on in total, not 2, so it actually scores. So that has scored for 2. That's the first card of the game scored. In him also revealing that, he is putting into play Mother of Strays, which is the Batman themed Catwoman's unique card. Play when a friendly model reveals an enemy suspect before the final round. score if that model was in play at the end of the following round's recount phase. Now that second part's important, we'll talk about that in a second. So as long as he's alive for another turn after this one, by the end of turn 2, this will score, but until then it stays in play. But, because he revealed an enemy suspect marker, he can use his special action to reveal the bat, where you place the Batman model in contact, and then remove the drifter. You transfer over audacity, damage, if he had any, but it does also specify objectives. So that Mother of Strays, as written it seems, will still apply, because the miniatures are both Batman, Bruce Wayne, etc. And it says you transfer them over from the drifter when he becomes the Batman, which he is going to do. It is a little early to do. You just put him in base to base, and then you swap him out. But the benefit of starting as a drifter is the drifter is undercover, whereas the Batman himself does not. So he's still got his audacity. He used his move, he used his manipulate, he used his special action to reveal the bat. He's put that Mother of Strays in play, and as I say, because of that rule that says you transfer over objective cards that played on the drifter, it still applies, at least at first read it does. And he scored Unveiling the Truth. So now, knowing that it was safe to activate thanks to the Batman going, or the drifter, the Hitman Thug for Organised Crime activate, he made use of his special action to use his grapple gun, and he had a built-in backpack, or not built-in, he purchased a backpack with funding along with that grapple gun. So he shot over the Batman's head right here and used that backpack to do a free reveal on the suspect marker that had been put down by the GCPD officer, meeting half of the criteria for recovering the juice. The other half is he needs to live to the end of the turn. We'll see if that happens. Obviously with the Batman activate, he's much safer than he was before. He's got hardened naturally. He's been purchased a bulletproof vest. So we'll see how he does. He did try and shoot his shotgun. He's got an assault shotgun. So you can move and fire it with a -1, but he rolled a 1, so critical fail. So no damage there. The mounted GCPD cop sprung into action, base movement 14, animal gives him another 2. He is always on the move as well, so he is able to carry on a movement after stopping to do an attack. He opted not to make use of that though, because in the off chance he was actually able to take out the Mafia Thug, he was then going to use his special action to arrest him. He efforted a full 3 times, attacking with a double stun heavy baton. He's only 5+ strength though, so really the heavy just makes him 4+, so it's not great. And despite efforting a full 3 times, he only got 2 hits through all said and done. He's attack 3, defense 3, same with the Mafia Thug. Would have done 4 stun, but he used hardened to convert one of the stun to 1 blood. Oh, and we have our first counterplay of the game because of the Mafia Thug being punched, or batoned by the mounted guy. Pinched mobster can come into play. When a friendly model takes damage from an attack, place an event marker in contact with it. Anyone can use their manipulate to move it 4 inches, but this will score for organised crime when it's inside their deployment zone. So there is the marker right there. Carmine Falcone activated, and forgot to mention, but when the drifter revealed assessment marker, he did get dealt 1 stun damage of his intel support, whatever they call them now. They've changed the name, so it's not just like stun damage, but whatever. He moved up 8 inches to where you can see him, then as a special action used coordination on the Mafia Thug to make them do an action, made him do manipulate to move the event marker. It should technically be under both of them, roughly there, should just put it there for now. Then he put down a suspect marker using his tactical action, which is right there, and that kicks in another rule he has called pulling the strings, which isn't even a special action or anything, it's just something that happens when he puts down a suspect marker. He targets a henchman or friendly within 8 that he shares a keyword with, in this case criminal, and he moves them 8 inches. So I don't even think he needs line of sight. So the Mafia Thug has moved 8 inches to relative safety back here. Catwoman activated, she's got 12-inch movement, so she had more than enough to move from roughly behind there all the way up past Officer Martinez right there, and she put down a suspect marker, just a normal suspect marker, right there on the side of the map. The bouncer that was chaperoning Penguin around activated. He didn't move his full movement, he just moved up to the corner of the building here, and then using the Inspire from Falcone that he gets from Penguin, as confusing as that sounds because Penguin creates an aura bubble as well, he put down a suspect marker. Chief Mackenzie had a quick activation, no audacity at all. He interacted with the sewer marker and has teleported himself all the way over to here for next turn planning, just to have his aura of Inspire over there. Twin 2 activated, also without audacity, so all he did was move up beside his brother right here, just staying close together, because as we all know, if twins spend more than 30 seconds apart, they start aging in dog years. Commissioner Gordon activated for the Batman crew, no audacity on him, so all he did was move up. Next turn though, he might be able to do some decent stuff. He has the generic order that a lot of Gordons have, which is just like point at a friendly and say you put down a suspect marker now. But he also has a new one where, what is it called? Coordination? No, not coordination. It is called support, which is a new role. Support specifically for the Batman, where he can give the Batman an extra action, which is really, really powerful, potentially an extra attack action, or an extra manipulate, or movement. They can be really potent, they work well together. The final bouncer, who did have audacity, moved up 8 inches. Most things on this table move 8 inches, with only like a few exceptions per side, which put him there. It's the one in the pinstripe. He has rapid fire, but he didn't make use of it, and he's just outside of minimum range on his pistol to be able to reach her there. So he didn't bother firing this turn. He decided to hold on to his ammo for later. So we're already up to the final activation for the Batman crew in this turn, although I believe Organised Crime still have the Penguin left at the very least. But Officer Martinez moved up his 8 inches and also put down a suspect marker along the edge of the table there. What could he and Catwoman possibly be up to? Officer Martinez does not know how lucky he is, because this Penguin anyway, has a pretty deadly gun. He's got the most deadly gun on the table actually, but he's not going to fire it, because in order to make some scoring happen in phase 4, what he had to do was move along up here and put down a suspect marker so they could stay one ahead in terms of tolls. So with that takes us to the end of Battle Round 1. Let's see what's scored, if anything else is being scored, and where that puts us for Round 2. So at the end of Battle Round 1, everyone who is on the table with stun damage is healing 1 stun. For the Batman crew, Unveiling the Truth that's on Catwoman is staying in play, as is Mother of Strays, which was played on Batman. If he's still alive at the end of turn 2, that'll score for 3. Additionally to that, they are scoring in a Secure the Perimeter, remove 2 friendly suspect markers within 2 inches of the gaming edge, the one Catwoman put down, and Martinez will be getting taken off in a second, and that has scored for 2. Organised Crime though did some of their best work towards the end of the turn and into this end phase. They've scored a lot of cards all of a sudden. The Die Hard that was in play scores because Penguin is fine, so that's scored for 2. Recovering the Juice scores, thanks to Falcone protecting that hitman of his. He did indeed reveal a suspect marker and he's in the gaming area, so that's scored for 3. And because they have 1 more suspect marker down than the enemy, they also score a Stick to the Plan. Their Pinched Mobster event stays in play. Again, it should be slightly closer to here-ish, but that's okay. So with that, we'll get all the markers cleaned up and begin Battle Round 2. So here we are at the top of Round 2, everything set up and good to go. Organised Crime have taken first activation. There is cards being played by both sides though, starting with the final Unveiling the Truth. From the Batman crew, it's being played on Chief Mackenzie, who is right smack dab there. So that's in play forever on him, unless he's removed or scores it. There's 2 Phase 2s being played by Organised Crime, and this is where there's a little bit of oddness that might again be corrected down the line. Mentioned it before, but at present in the Batman app, if you bring Falcone, or if you bring Catwoman, or if you bring Bruce Wayne, you can bring their new movie-themed cards, but you can also bring their uniques that previously existed. So both Falcone cards are being played. The Dawn just means that if he's within 6 inches of the enemy boss at the end of the turn, that scores for 3. And then the new one, which is called Cover Up, target 3 friendly suspect markers until the end of the round. They count as evidence markers, and this will score if you have at least one of those markers has at least 1 friendly model in contact with them. The 3 markers being chosen is this one down here, this one here, and then the one the Penguin put down. So as long as there's a friendly model in base to base with one of those at the end of a turn, that's also going to score for 3, which is a lot of points. I suspect that'll get fixed down the line, but at present it's allowed in the app, so that's how we're going to do it. So round 2 got started with Falcone having a pretty interesting set of activations again. He started by manipulating the event marker and moving it 4, which put it behind the Mafia Thug. He then used coordination to say, hey, Mafia Thug, which is hard to say. Mafia Thug, there we go. Why don't you do a manipulate as well? And he's like, okay boss. So he did, which put the marker here, which is inside their deployment zone, so the Pinched Mobster has scored. He then only had a movement action left because he did his tactical and special action. He moved down here 8 inches and has plopped himself right there. He is still within 6 of Batman at present, and he's kind of trying to protect Detective Kenzie down here. If Batman tries to fire over here to get rid of the suspect marker or to take him out, then it's still going to score the Dawn instead. So he's just trying to cover his bases, basically. First activation this turn for the Batman crew was the JCPD mounted cop. He ran over to finish what he started on the Mafia thug. He efforted twice, as it turns out it didn't really matter because the strength die was a crit. He just needed to get a single hit through because even if he used hardened it would still be enough to knock him out. Well, actually no, if he used hardened it would not be, but he got 2 hits through, so it's irrelevant. He knocked him out, not put down a knocked out marker though, because he's immediately using his special action to get them off the streets. Arrest him for 3, so he's off the table. He did good work though, and his work isn't done technically because on him taking more damage, another pinched mobster is being played, so the event marker, which is here, is still just going to stay there, and that is another chance for organised crime to recoup that loss there of 3 victory points. Twin 1 activated without Audacity, but next to where Falcone ended up, he moved over to the event marker, interacted with it, or manipulated it, using that free inspired manipulate, to move it back into the deployment zone, and scoring that pinched mobster. That is a lot of scoring early on for organised crime, which is a little unlike them, but they've drawn the right cards at the right time. He didn't do anything else, but one thing I forgot to mention about the twins, as long as they're both on the table, they buff each other's willpower, attack and defense stats by 1. Real quick activation from Officer Martinez without Audacity, so he just stayed where he was and shot his gun into the Penguin. He's got the stereotypical cop pistol blood stun, he got 2 hits through, but he converted all the damage to stun, so that's why there's 4 stun there, by playing a non-lethal ammo. I think Penguin has 6 willpower, 6 or 7, so he's getting up there now. Oh, and in case you're wondering why didn't he use Protect Me to make an effort to pass it over to this bouncer who is within range 4, it requires line of sight and they can't currently see each other. Well, the Penguin decided to retaliate. This is actually the first time in this game the organised crime crew have actively attacked the cops. The cops have been the aggressors here. He has a double blood rate of fire 4 short range SMG. Super powerful. He unloaded it into Officer Martinez, 3 hits through for a total of 6 blood. That does mean that Officer Martinez is down, and in doing so and removing him, scored for a cheeky 1 victory point. Catch a bullet, because Martinez caught more than 1. Inflict at least 6 damage with a single ranged attack. The Penguin then used a movement action to move into base to base with the other marked suspect marker from cover up, and close enough that the bodyguard can take effect on the bouncer there. Catwoman activated with Audacity, moved behind the building over here and used her backpack to reveal the suspect marker the Penguin had put down in the previous turn, putting 2 markers on her unveiling the truth, but that doesn't score yet, and also scoring in the moment a comb through everything for revealing an enemy suspect marker for a quick 2 points. She's not doing anything else with the rest of her action. She's got reach on her chain whip, but other than that she doesn't have any guns or special actions that she wants to do. She doesn't want to be seen by Penguin before the start of the next turn. So yeah, she's staying behind that house. And there is a quick bit of retaliation to what Catwoman just did. The program is being played. When any model reveals a suspect marker, mark it in some way. When that model is removed as a casualty, score this card. So she is now a marked lady. Organised crime activated Bouncer 1 without Audacity, but right next to Falcone there. Moved up 8 inches and used that inspired manipulate to put down a suspect marker. Didn't do anything else. Jim Gordon was next up. He moved forwards into base-to-base contact with the suspect marker that had been down there and used his free inspired manipulate from starting within 8 of Chief Mackenzie over there to remove it, and in doing so scored following clues. Reveal an enemy suspect marker at least 10 inches away from the gaming area edges with a model with a detective trait, and Gordon is indeed a detective. The other twin activated with Audacity this time. He moved up and put down a suspect marker. Didn't really do anything with his Audacity. With hindsight, it's the other twin that should have had it, because then he could have done some messing around with enemy suspect markers. Oh well, mistakes were made, but another suspect marker has been put down and it is outside of 4 of that there. Chief of Police Mackenzie activated with Audacity. He moved down here. He has put down a suspect marker and it's become a snitch. First one of the game at the tail end of turn 2 is a little late in the game compared to usual. But yep, first one in play, so if there's no enemies within 4 at the end of a turn, it will score. Organised crime are just burning an activation next. The bouncer next to Penguin, who's also in play for that cover-up card, is activating and unactivating. He's staying in base to base with the suspect marker that's marked, and close enough to protect the Penguin if it's needed, depending on who Batman decides to go after. The JCPD officer, who now started with any of Chief Mackenzie activated, came round the Batmobile right here and got rid of the suspect marker that had been placed down. So the bouncer with the gun in the pinstripe suit activated, and he had audacity again, so he made use of rapid fire from where he was, and he opened fire on that JCPD officer. It's a blood sun pistol, and he got all 4 hits through. Well, 5 hits in total, so 1 missed. But either way, 4 blood, 4 stun. Now, unfortunately for this JCPD officer, he is a 5-4 in terms of willpower endurance, so it actually just outright killed him. She is the opposite. She's a 4-5 or 5-4, yeah, 5 willpower, 4 endurance. Either way, she's the opposite of him. But doesn't matter. Took him out rather. Then did a move up here. But before that, upon killing him, played spring cleaning. When an enemy model is removed as a casualty, before removing the model, the opponent must place 2 of their friendly suspect markers within 4 inches, ignoring the normal distance between markers. Score this card when both those suspect markers are no longer in play. There and there. So he's on his way to start working towards getting rid of them. And I think with that, it's over to just Batman left for the Batman crew to activate. So it wasn't just the Batman, because the other JCPD officer had not activated. She retreated a little bit because there's nothing she can do over there. She's actually armed with literally nothing, so that's not very good. So she's just retreated back there and left those suspect markers to be. Now, in terms of people still to activate for organised crime, it's just Detective Kenzie over here, and he needs to stay in base-to-base with that to help score cover-up. So he's just activating and unactivating, so it is still to the Batman now to end off the turn. So let's have a quick conversation about some of the stuff the Robert Pattinson Batman can do. Prior to scoring 8 total objective cards, he has a rule called Vengeance, or I'm Vengeance, which means when he makes efforts in combat he gets 2 extra dice, not 1, which is really, really powerful, although he is base attack 4 to kind of balance that out a bit. Once you've scored that many objective cards, though, it becomes Hope, and he becomes an Inspire Bubble for Henchman, which is kind of neat, follows the theme of the film. But he didn't do much else that was unique to him. Other than that, he's pretty much a standard Batman. He moved into base-to-base with Penguin, but as anticipated, Penguin efforted in order to pass off damage and the attack to the bouncer next to him instead, and Batman efforted once and managed to get 3 punches through for a total of 6 stun, very much knocking out the bouncer and just scoring a cheeky 1 point for They Won't See Me Coming. As a result of being tight round the corner there, neither of them could see him when he went round there. And that does take us to scoring for Battle Round 2. So then Battle Round 2, the bouncer that just got knocked out by Batman has not woken up, so he's going to be staying on the ground eating dirt. Of the cards in play, because there is no additional cards being played, Mother of Strays scores, because Batman lived that extra turn beyond. The Snitch also scores, that Chief Mackenzie put down, so they earned 6 there, which is pretty good. For Organised Crime, Spring Cleaning stays in play, the Program stays in play. The Dawn does not score because Batman is nowhere near Falcone, so it's gone, but Cover Up does score. I think 2 out of the 3 still have people. Kenzie is there, and Penguin is next to one of them. I don't think it has to be the one he specifically put down. So either way you cut it, that has scored. So here we are at the top of the penultimate battle round, and we'll take a look at who has Audacity in a second. There is no cards being played in Phase 1 or Phase 2 by either side, but the Batman crew has snatched first activation. So we can look down here. The Pinstripe Suit Bouncer has Audacity, so does Twin 2. The one that hasn't had it mostly. Falcone has it, and Penguin has it for Organised Crime. For the Batman crew, Catwoman, Batman, Gordon, and the mounted GCPD cop are all the ones with Audacity there. We know all the cards in play already, so let's jump in. So it was actually Catwoman that got the round start for the Batman crew. She used her prodigious movement to come round the building, 12 base. Well, actually, you know, it's weird because they updated the app so that anyone with Acrobat had the movement added on, and yet there's new models coming out where they still have a flat 12 and Acrobat, but if they have Acrobat they should have 13, because prior to counting Acrobat or any other additional movement bonus, it's rounded up from 6, 8, 10, 12 for movement. So it looks like they kind of forgot. The Acrobat rule doesn't give movement bonus anymore, but it also seems like they forgot to add on the extra one they're supposed to have to their movement stat. Either way, she had more than enough to get where she was. Alright, I just wanted to rant a little bit there. She moved where you can see her, then used her backpack to do a free reveal of the suspect marker that was there. That put 2 more on her Unveiling the Truth. You know, I just realized Unveiling the Truth can't be on her. She's not a detective. Oh no, sorry, the free agent. Yeah, it can't be played on her. She's a free agent. Sorry, I was getting confused there for a second. So that actually maxed it out at 4 and means it scores. But also during her turn, because that card was already in play, she played the Evidence Mounts, which is the Robert Pattinson unique card. Target up to 3 friendly suspect markers until the end of the round. They cannot, their search marker, sorry, not suspects anymore, they're search markers, but they can't be revealed or removed. And you score this card at the end of the round if there's no enemy suspect markers within 4 of them. Now you could be really cheeky and pick like these 2 out of these 3, which means they would be unable to score spring cleaning, but it would be very easy. In fact, they're already countering it. So the 2 that are being selected of the potential 3 is the one she put down with her actual manipulate to end her turn off with, because the backpack is a free reveal, and the one that Chief Mackenzie put down the previous turn. So only those 2 are counting. So if either of those have an enemy suspect marker within 4 still at the end of the round, it won't score. There's a good chance it will though. Gordon's got a gun and he's kind of guarding the area, so does Mackenzie, and of course Batman is there as well, and he can do Vigilante's work to take an effort to do a free manipulate as well to get rid of something. So it should be safest over there. We'll see if it plays out that way. Well, we're staying over there because now that he's out of a bodyguard, Penguin activated and decided to run away. He ran down here and then shot the last of his ammunition, I believe, into the other GCPD officer. Losing 2 dice from moving and firing, of course, but he actually maxed out the dice he was rolling. She's only defense 3. Did 1 more than the health she has, so she is dead. And in doing that, scored a message job for a quick 2 victory points. An enemy model is removed as a casualty. Simple as that. So much like Catwoman, the mounted JCPD cop has massive movement. He's actually been performing so much more than I thought he would. He ran all the way over here and he is arresting the bouncer. Having someone with such fantastic movement also having arrest is really, really handy. Especially when you have yet another get them off the streets in your hand to arrest them for 3 victory points. The moonlighting cop, Detective Kenzie, activated, made use of the Inspire from Falcone there to remove the suspect marker he had been guarding last round, turning it into loot, the last opportunity in which to do so. So he's now holding that and will score it at the end of the game if that's still true. For his actual action, no, because again that was from the Inspired Manipulate, he did a move and he ran away. He's going to go hide in the back corner of the table. That's very in keeping with his character, to be honest. So Chief Mackenzie activated, which is a little confusing after Kenzie activated, but whatever. Didn't have Audacity, but what he did have was a gun with ammo in it. So he turned and fired it straight into Penguin. Would have done 3 blood, 3 stun all said and done, but converted it all into stun with the second and last non-lethal ammo. So that scored for 2 and has resulted in the Penguin being knocked out. So in an apparent effort to set up some scoring opportunities, Falcone activated, moved down over here, then coordinated to make the bouncer here do a movement action, came around here, and now he's in base to base with the suspect marker. He then used his own tactical action to put down a suspect marker of his own right there, just outside of 4. It might actually need to be underneath the bouncer to be exactly outside of 4, so we'll move it if need be. But either way, that's all he's doing, setting some stuff up. Oh, and totally forgot the pulling the strings trigger on him putting down a suspect marker, so he's moving this twin into base to base with the other suspect marker that needs to be removed in order to score spring cleaning. Jim Gordon activated, moved into base to base with the knocked out Penguin and is arresting him in order to score, get them off the streets. Now, as good as that is, because obviously it's great scoring a card worth 3, his special action being used to do the arrest means he can't use it to give the Batman a free action, because it would have been great to move him down here as a free action, give him a nice big area of effect. Sadly couldn't do that. Bouncer 1 activated, and thanks to being moved up by Falcone, was able to use his Inspired Manipulate to just remove one of the suspect markers for spring cleaning, the ones marked by that, and also scoring Confusion for revealing an enemy suspect marker within 8 of their deployment zone. It's actually within because of the ignored normal rules when they were placed. So that's scored, and then for his tactical action, his actual actions, he used a movement action and moved up to where you can see him. A pass was used by the Batman crew because they just had Batman left to go at this point, and they started to turn down 2, I think, at least 1. Twin 2 activated. He revealed the suspect marker that he'd been placed in base to base with by pulling the strings, thus getting rid of the second one and scoring that spring cleaning that was in play. He then just did a move and has ended his turn in base to base with that suspect marker, but is leaving it alone for now for future plans. So the Batman activated, and it would have been so much better if he'd been able to get a free move from Gordon's turn. It's such a shame because as a result he couldn't put down a suspect marker to become a snitch because of the one Catwoman put down. So he used his back claw, shot over here, and thought, we'll just quickly knock out this bouncer. How hard could it be? He efforted twice. He's no longer getting the bonus from Vengeance. He has Hope instead now, so he's just creating a Inspire bubble. His attack roll was awful. There it is. That's the successes. The Strength I got through. He's got Brutal, so it would have been a crit on a 5 or a 6, but 2 normal hits got through, and then there's the defense roll right there. So only the Strength I got through, all said and done, for 2 stun damage. That's it. So there were still 2 activations left to go for Organised Crime, so we're just quickly going to cover those. But we were also looking into the Evidence Mounts, the card in play, Batman's Unique. And it's a little bit weird. You're going to need to tell us in the comments, why would you ever pick more than 1 suspect marker for this card? Because upon reading it, it's if any of them have an enemy suspect marker within 4 at the end of a turn, it scores. There has to be no enemy suspect markers within 4 of these markers, as in plural. And when you dictate that they are search markers, they can't be revealed or removed. So it's not like you pick multiple to make sure that there's still 1 left in play. So why would you ever pick more than 1? It seems so strange. Answers on a postcard. Anywho, the twin that was up there without Audacity moved into base to base with Gordon. Couldn't do anything else. The bouncer with the gun, he's used up all his normal ammo. He has had extra ammo bought for him from funding. He just moved up to position himself for some plays next turn, rather than go too deep into the evidence mounts, because it was possible he might have been able to come around Batman here, or roughly here, and put down a system marker that might be within 4 of one of the 2 marked. But obviously if we'd read the card better, only would have picked that one up there, because there's no reason to pick another one. So we're just going to ignore that issue and go to scoring for the penultimate round. So at the end of battle round 3, there is no additional cards being played, and most of the ones in play are staying in play. Unveiling the Truth for the Batman crew stays in play, the 3rd version of it. The Evidence Mount is going to score for 3 though, so that's out of there. The Viable Commodities is very safe in Detective Kenzie's hands, cowering in the bottom corner of the table, so it's very likely that'll score at the end of the game, but it stays in play for now, as does the Program, which is the one played on Catwoman. Now she's an acrobat, so she's pretty safe in most instances, but we'll see what happens with that. So, nothing else to cover, nobody to do knockout checks because everyone got arrested that was knocked out, so straight into the final round. Dawn of the final day, here we are at the top of the final battle round. Basically everybody who is in the middle has the Audacity, but we'll cover that in a minute. There's one phase 2 being played by Organised Crime. It's another Recovering the Juice, and it's being played on this twin. He has a rule called Showing the Ropes, so when he's selected as the target for this card, he picks a friendly within 4, I believe, to also be able to count for the criteria of it. He's picking the bouncer right there. So it makes it have a higher chance of succeeding. He has Audacity, Falcone has it, the bouncer with the gun has it, as does the other twin. Of course, Detective Kenzie down here does not. For the Batman crew, it is everybody except Chief Mackenzie. He's just chilling there. I think he doesn't even have any ammo left. He's just chilling there being an Inspire bubble. So I did forget to mention, but it's Organised Crime who is going first, and the twin who ended his turn in base to base with the suspect marker is the one who activated it. It's Twin 2, I think? Yes, Twin 2. He revealed the marker, and then he didn't really have anything else he needed to do. He simply retreated just to make it harder for Batman to get over there and get rid of him, and potentially leaving this bouncer to run up there and get that marker. As long as one of them does that, or like if the bouncer does that, if one of them survives, that card scores. Gordon activated first for the Batman crew, and he used his special action to do support the Batman, which means he can make Batman do an action. He of course initiated an attack action, he efforted twice, and that's a bit more what I expected than what happened last turn. 12 stun, that bouncer is KO'd. Important part of that is, he still has his actions to go. He can still have a turn and do his full actions, move, attack, etc. So maybe he could be able to chase down the twin that activates. Speaking of which, Gordon fired his pistol point blank. It's light, so he can do that. Into the other twin. Terrible roll. Only got the strength die through for 1 blood, 1 stun. Then he retreated, but not before he pinched Mobster, which was put into play for the damage he did there. So it was placed in contact with him at the point that he did the damage. Probably knock it there a little bit. Either way, in base to base with him as well, though. And worth 3 if it scores for the end of the game, but they're running out of time and activations to make this possible. Well, faced with an event marker that could be worth a very pivotal 3 points, the other twin activated, manipulated the marker to move it 4, and then moved in after it with his own movement action. Going to try and set up a little push chain here with Carmine to make it score. A mounted GCPD police officer made full use of his 14 inches base plus 2 for animal rule to scarper all the way down here. A little bit squint because of the uneven terrain there, but he did reveal the suspect marker that was right there in front of Falcone and scored a comb through everything. That mounted cop has done so much work this match. So speaking of Falcone, he moved along here then for a special action used coordination to tell the twin, hey, do a manipulate. He did so to get it basically under this poking out spike because that's not part of the scenery. And then Falcone himself used his tactical action to manipulate it to move it 4. It is just inside their deployment zone there, like literally just. But it is enough because it doesn't say wholly within, it just says inside. So it has scored the pinched mobster. So there isn't much left that the Batman crew can fandango any points out of. The only play was to go with Catwoman, move up there just to be in total safety, put down a snitch. That's literally all they can do. So their game is basically done unless they need to react to anything that organised crime do, because they've still got... Oh, actually no, that's not true. Batman still needs to try and catch that twin. That's the other thing that needs to happen. Falcone missed his chance to order the twin further back, but Kenzie's not going to do anything, so it's just down to the bouncer there with the extra ammo. So all the bouncer tried to do was use the extra ammo purchased for him with funding plus his silencer to just cheekily try and assassinate the chief of police. Even if full damage has gone through, it would have been, what, 5-5 maximum? He only got 4-4, which is still pretty good, but he's a 6-6 miniature, so he would have lived either way. So the thing to close off the game, the only thing that matters that can change, is can the Batman 1 reach him without a backlog because he used it last turn, and if he can he take him out? So looking at it closely, 10 inches of movement will not get him into base to base with the twin. Even as the crow flies, it's just over 10, but he'd have to come around the corner of the Batmobile. So that's going to eat into his movement as well. It's not possible. Can't catch him. Can't stop it scoring. So with that, let's see the final cards being added to the piles in the final scoring phase. So at the end of the game, there's no additional cards being played. The final unveiling the truth that was in play, I've forgotten at this point if it was on Gordon or Chief Mackenzie. Doesn't matter. Either way, does not score. The snitch that Catwoman put down does score though. So that's scored for 3. For organised crime recovering the juice, the twin pulled it off. Scored it for 3. Valuable commodities, thanks to cowardly Detective Kenzie, also scores for 3. The program, which was the price on the head of Catwoman, does not score. So, I feel like both sides did really well here. I'm very curious what the final scores are. Let's go see. So, let's start with the Batman side. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. Very, very healthy score. Get out of the way there. 38 plays 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Really good score for organised crime, honestly, but 32 does not trump 38, so it is a Batman victory. MVP of the Batman crew, subtly, was definitely the mounted GCPD cop. Let's set him up straight. He deserved it. He did a lot better than I thought he would, because his attacking is not great, but his mobility and the fact he has arrest, like, he earns that audacity marker. Catwoman didn't really get to show off her fancy stuff. She was mostly just running cards, like scoring, secure the perimeter, and snitches and whatnot. But in general, the team worked together. The officers that are there just to be murdered were murdered. Although, speaking of which, organised crime didn't really do that much killing until they were forced to. They were just kind of scoring cards. Their initial hands of cards were just, they worked well together and didn't require anything from the enemy, other than being left alone, more or less. MVP on the organised crime side, I mean, Falcone didn't get to do his manipulation, like his corruption, where he can try and do the hypnotise effect to get 2 actions out of somebody. It doesn't seem as useful, especially because you've got to actually win the willpower, or they've got to fail the willpower rather. Pulling the strings and coordination are much more important, I think, to trying to make sure those cards score, because he helped set up so many recovering the juices and pinched mobster markers and whatnot. So I think Falcone was the MVP for them. I think he did a lot of good work. That was probably quite a long one. A lot of rules on both sides that are unfamiliar. Hopefully did most of them right. Thank you very much for watching. I sincerely hope you enjoyed. And come back again for more. Until then, thank you again. Ta-ta for now.